So over the last month or so, I've been doing a lot of talk about planting grass seed, but there is another method to getting a nice yard without planting grass seed, and that's sod. Let's get out of the weeds. Thank you guys for coming back to yet another video. If you like these videos, please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. So I've done a ton of content talking about different grass seeding and what you need to do with that. And so I thought it would be a really good opportunity to be able to make a video on laying down sod in your yard, because that is an option. And for those of you who are going to be moving into a new home, a lot of times there's a requirement when you're buying the home that they put in sod in the front yard, and then they'll seed the back. That way you kind of get that good curb appeal right as soon as you're moving in, so it's not just dirt there. So I had the opportunity with one of my friends from work. Him and his wife are getting ready to move into a new home, and he sent me a text saying, hey, they're getting ready to lay the sod down, and he asked if I'd want to come down and get some video there. So I took him up on that offer, and I thought it'd be great to make a video all about sodding your yard. Now, I do want to give you guys a little bit of a disclaimer. I have never personally dealt with sod in my own yard or done any of it myself. So I'm not speaking from experience, but more so actually from the knowledge that I've gained from watching other videos, and also I have several books that I usually reference when I'm making these videos, just to make sure I'm giving you guys adequate, up-to-date information. But a lot of the principles that you're going to follow with putting down new sod is going to be very similar to other lawn care principles that we follow. And so you can see here, as I put it up on the screen here, this is what his yard looked like before the sod was laid down. And so you can just see it's just bare dirt right there. Nothing special to it, nothing really kind of going on, just bare dirt. One thing to kind of keep in mind though, a lot of times, is you'll see all kinds of different rocks and debris in these new build yards. This can actually lead to having some issues with your grass if there is rocks directly underneath it. So if they're going to be laying down sod or something and there's a big rock just underneath there, that can really prevent the grass from really developing good there, and you could end up leading to having like a dead spot in your lawn, and you're thinking it's a disease or something going on, but it could just be shallow roots or whatever from there being kind of debris underneath there. And so that's one thing to kind of keep in mind and pay attention to, is if there's debris in that over throughout the soil, that they're going to be throwing the sod down over. But hopefully the landscapers and people that are going to be installing this in your yard, hopefully they go and they identify some of the problems and some of the debris, and they go and they can remove some of it and give you a good nice finished grade, so that way the sod has a nice bed to lay on, and so that it can do well. Now I want to show you here is the truck that actually had all the sod. And so if you've never really seen this before, a lot of times the sod's going to be coming all on this big truck bed, all rolled up, and it'll just be sitting there ready to go. It'll come in these big rolls. Now, one thing with sod is that it is very time critical. You don't want to be getting old sod that was ripped up and tore up days and days ago. A lot of times it all wants to be done kind of in like a 24-hour period. It gets taken up and going and gets moving, because what's happening here with sod is it's at a sod farm where it's in these nice, beautiful, perfect conditions, well managed, well everything's just perfect. And what happens is they take a sod cutter and they just rip this thing up. That's just, this beautiful grass is all fat and happy, ready to roll, and they just go and they rip it up from its home, roll it up, and throw it on a truck. And so it gets a lot of abuse and beating early on in its stages. And so it's time critical to get back down, and then it really needs water. And so you don't want to be having sod. If you're going out and just buying sod yourself, you don't want to just go buy it and then just leave it sitting somewhere for a few days and then put it down. It's always a very time sensitive process where you want to get it there, get it laid out and ready to go, because it wants to get back to being able to develop its root system and becoming a nice healthy lawn. So now once the soil and that is all have a nice finished grade on it and everything's ready to go, they're going to take these rolls of sod and they're going to begin to just roll them out across your lawn in strips. And now one thing to pay attention to, which you can see here on this video, is you don't want the seams to be completely lined up to have one big seam across your yard. You'll easily be able to see, once you put the sod down, you'll be able to see the seams from where the roll of sod starts and ends. But you don't want to always use the same length side by side to where you just have seams that just follow all the way the length of your lawn. You want the seams of the sod to be offset from each other, so that way you're not running into problems along one big giant seam. You're able to offset the seams a little bit, so that way you're going to get a nice uniform yard and not have an area where you can just feel the seam all the way across. Then what you're going to notice also is that you want to make sure that when one roll of sod ends, the next one is right up against it. You don't want to leave a gap in there. You want to get them as close together as you can get. You don't want to now overlap them. You don't want one piece of sod sitting on the other, but you want them pushed right up against each other to get a nice seam, because what your end goal is that eventually, as the root systems and everything of these grass comes together, it'll all sew together to give you a nice uniform yard that looks really, really nice. Once the sod is laid out throughout your yard and everything's ready to go, now the next 10 to 14 days are absolutely critical so that you can get your sod to take. It's going to need a lot of watering. So typically, whenever we're talking about planting grass seed, I always talk about keeping the grass seed moist. So you want to never let it dry out, and you just want to keep the grass seed nice and moist. Well, with sod, it's a little bit different, because now that sod was ripped up at the sod farm. Its roots now are really just shallow right there at the sod. And so what you want to do is you want to get your sod to take. So you want those roots to grab on to the soil beneath it and be able to like sow into the dirt there, and so that the sod takes. So when you're watering brand new sod, you want your waterings to be deep. You want the water to get 6 to 8 inches down into the soil to encourage those roots to follow the water. The reason we don't do quick waterings on our lawns is because if you just water for a short period of time every single day, the water's never really getting that deep, and so it's encouraging shallow roots, and you're going to have a lot less healthy grass. So the same with the sod, you want to water really, really deep so those roots start to chase the water down, and therefore it'll grab onto the soil below and you'll get your sod to take. Right after your sod's laid down, and you can see it from the video, you can go right up to the edge or corner and just lift it right up, just because it's just a mat, pretty much a mat sitting right on top of this ground, and it can just lift right up. Well, as you're watering it and those roots are chasing down, it's going to sow into the ground there and get to the point to where it won't just pull up. What I would recommend is every day going out there and giving it a nice deep soaking watering, so that way you can encourage it to soak. You don't want to just be constant letting water go 24/7 on it, because then you can get problems in that with disease and other things with the grass. But each day for the first 2 to 3 weeks or so, I would make sure you're giving it a nice deep watering. The first few weeks of getting sod is absolutely the most critical time to get it established good and to be able to have a nice healthy lawn going forward. You got to think, because this sod came from just a nice perfect environment to getting ripped up and thrown down on this brand new soil, so it's gone through a lot and can get really stressed out. So you want to ease it into it by giving it a good watering consistently. Then you also don't be afraid to throw down a little bit of a starter fertilizer on it to give it some of that nutrients that it's going to be wanting, because it just came from this nice, good, perfect environment soil. Everything was good with it, and now it's venturing into the unknown, and you want to kind of ease it in so that way it rewards you with a nice, good color and starts growing and taking off to give yourself a beautiful, beautiful yard. So that really covers most of it with sod. Once you kind of get the sod established, then you can act as if it's a nice, new, perfectly seeded lawn. You're going to have a nice, beautiful lawn as soon as it takes. It'll grow and you'll be able to mow it as normal, and it'll just blend in with the rest of the grass that you have going on there. Now, the nice thing with sod is that you get a nice lawn right away. In a day, you can go from dirt to having a nice lawn. So that's the benefits of sod. Also, for those of us who aren't moving into a new build and aren't starting from scratch, you can actually buy sod in like just smaller rolls than that and actually just fill it in. So if you have a bare spot or dead area in your lawn, you can actually just do it with sod and get it to kind of blend in with your current grass. And so that's one option to do. Now, sod is always going to be more expensive than dealing with just putting down grass seed, but you get kind of those instant results, and that can be appealing for some of us. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit of a different video. I thought it would be a kind of a good change of pace to talk a little bit about sod, something that I've never really gotten to mess with. I want to thank my friend Dave for letting me come down to his yard and check everything out. It's a beautiful house there, and now a nice, beautiful front lawn. Now he's just got to water his back lawn, get that all to grow, because it's all seed now. So with that, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time when we get out of the weeds and see a beautiful lawn.